March 31, 1988. A family of 3 completely vanished on Mount Everest after ignoring a warning sign that read, "Danger, do not proceed." Fernando in his orange jacket, Susanna in pink, and their daughter Rebecca in a vibrant blue coat entered the deadliest zone of the world's most dangerous mountain. The most extensive search missions in history failed. Experts gave up. For 28 years, the fate of the Mendoza family remained the most disturbing unsolved mystery in extreme mountaineering until 2016, when, at exactly 5,350 meters of altitude, a scientific exploration drone captured something no one expected to find. Deep within a glacial crevasse, an image emerged that would chill anyone's blood. A perfectly preserved figure, hanging upside down, wearing the exact colors the family had on the day of their disappearance. This discovery not only resolved one of Everest's most enigmatic cases, it also exposed a shocking truth about what really happened that fateful night. A truth that would forever alter our understanding of the mountain's hidden dangers. Sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this one. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. On March 15, 1988, a family from San Diego, California, set out on what would be their final journey together. Fernando Mendoza, a 42-year-old engineer, his wife Susanna, 38, and their teenage daughter Rebecca, 16, were known in the mountaineering community for their shared passion for climbing. Over the years, they had conquered some of the most challenging peaks in North America, from Mount Whitney to Denali in Alaska. The Mendoza family had meticulously planned their Everest expedition for 2 years. Fernando, always seen in his signature orange jacket worn on dozens of climbs, had studied every possible route. Susanna, elegant even in the mountains, coordinated all necessary permits while wearing her distinctive pink coat. Rebecca, the youngest but most fearless, proudly wore her new vibrant blue jacket, a birthday gift for this special expedition. On March 20th, 5 days after arriving in Nepal, the family began their ascent from base camp. Official records show they had obtained all the required permits and were accompanied by experienced guides. However, something changed during the first week of their climb. The final official reports placed the Mendoza family at Camp 2 around 6,400 meters high. On March 28th, witnesses recalled Fernando expressing frustration with the poor weather conditions and constant delays on the main route. Susanna had voiced concern about continuing, but her love for family adventures outweighed her fears. On March 30th, 1988, the Mendoza family made a decision that would alter their fate forever. They abandoned the official trail and chose a more direct but significantly more dangerous path toward Everest's summit. At dawn on March 31st, tragedy began to unfold. The Mendozas headed toward a restricted zone on Mount Everest, known to local Sherpas as the Throat. Located at 5,350 meters, the area had been marked off-limits due to its extreme geological instability, a warning sign placed by earlier expeditions and Nepalese authorities clearly marked the entrance to this treacherous section. Rusted metal letters warned in 3 languages, "Danger, do not proceed." The sign had been installed after multiple climbers had died in the area during the 1970s. According to personal JOURNAL entries later found, Fernando Mendoza had identified this route as a potential shortcut to the summit. His experience in American mountain ranges may have given him an excessive sense of confidence in his abilities. In his notes, he described the official route as too commercial and slow, expressing a desire to find a more authentic and challenging path. Camp witnesses remembered seeing the family depart before sunrise. Fernando carried a matching orange backpack, Susanna double-checked safety gear, and Rebecca, full of energy, helped load extra supplies for the off-route climb. Their decision to ignore the warning wasn't made lightly. The Mendozas had debated the risks and benefits for hours. Ultimately, their past experience and mutual trust led them to believe they could overcome any obstacle the mountain might throw at them. The following days were marked by an eerie silence. By April 2nd, when the family was scheduled to return to base camp, there was no sign of them. The Sherpa guides, experts with generations of experience on the mountain, began to worry. The weather had been especially severe. Hurricane-force winds, intense snowstorms, and temperatures dropping to -40 degrees Celsius made extended exposure a death sentence. On April 5th, the first official search mission was launched. A rescue team of experienced Sherpas and international climbers made their way toward the last known location of the Mendozas. But the extreme weather severely limited their progress. The rescuers reached the warning sign at the edge of the restricted zone. There, they found evidence that someone had recently passed through, partially snow-covered footprints and some discarded energy bars. These clues confirmed that the Mendozas had indeed entered the danger zone. Over the next 10 days, multiple attempts were made to go deeper into the restricted area. The rescue teams faced hidden crevasses, minor avalanches, and winds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. Despite their heroic efforts, no further trace of the Californian family was found. The official search for the Mendoza family lasted 3 full weeks, becoming one of the most extensive rescue missions in Everest's history. More than 50 people participated, including professional climbers, local Sherpas, and Nepalese government officials. Advanced techniques for the time were used, including high-powered binoculars, signal flares, and radio communication systems. But 1988 technology had limitations. There were no drones, portable GPS units, or civilian satellite tracking. On April 20th, after weeks of exhaustive searching, Nepalese authorities made the difficult decision to officially suspend rescue operations. The extreme conditions continued, and several team members had suffered minor injuries due to exposure. In San Diego, the Mendoza's relatives, led by Fernando's older brother, Miguel Mendoza, did not accept this decision easily. Miguel, also an experienced climber, traveled to Nepal to organize additional private search efforts. In May, he sponsored 2 more expeditions, but neither was able to penetrate the forbidden zone significantly. The international climbing community rallied. World-renowned mountaineers volunteered their help, and a fund was created to support extended search missions. But the brutal reality of the mountain overcame human effort, and hope of finding the family alive slowly faded. As months passed, the Mendoza case became one of the most haunting mysteries in mountaineering history. Theories about their fate multiplied among both officials and climbers around the world. The most widely accepted theory suggested the Mendozas were caught in a sudden avalanche. The restricted zone was known for frequent snowslides, and the weather during their climb had created ideal conditions for such a disaster. A second hypothesis proposed that the family had fallen into a hidden glacial crevasse, common formation. At high altitudes on Everest, they could be invisible beneath layers of fresh snow and represented deadly traps for unsuspecting climbers. The third theory, less popular, but still persistent, suggested that the Mendozas had initially survived, but became trapped in a cave or natural shelter, where they eventually succumbed to exposure and lack of supplies. The official investigation, led by Captain Pemba Sherpa of the Nepal Mountain Rescue Department, compiled a detailed report on the case. The 200-page document included eyewitness testimonies, meteorological analyses, and detailed maps of the search area. However, despite all the documentation and analysis, the exact fate of Fernando, Susana, and Rebecca Mendoza remained a mystery. Their bodies were never found, and no significant pieces of their climbing equipment were ever recovered. The mountain had jealously kept its secret. In the following decades, the Mendoza case gradually faded from public memory. The family in San Diego kept their hope alive for years, but eventually had to accept the reality of their loss. A memorial service was held in 1990. 2 years after the disappearance, Mount Everest continued to claim the lives of ambitious climbers. Year after year, new tragedies captured the media's attention, and the mystery of the California family became a footnote in the history of extreme mountaineering. Miguel Mendoza, Fernando's brother, dedicated the following years to documenting the family's history and keeping the memory of his brother, sister-in-law, and niece alive. He established a small foundation that awarded scholarships to promising young climbers, ensuring they always emphasized the importance of safety during expeditions. In 1998, 10 years after the disappearance, Miguel organized a commemorative expedition to Mount Everest. Though not primarily aimed at locating the family's remains, the team explored some of the less traveled routes in the general area where the Mendozas had vanished. The official records of the Nepalese government classified the case as presumed deceased in 1995. The documents were transferred to the historical archives, where they remained virtually untouched for decades. The restricted zone where the Mendozas had entered continued to be extremely dangerous. Several climbers attempted to explore it over the years, but unstable geological conditions and climate risks discouraged even the most seasoned adventurers. Year 2016 marked a turning point in extreme mountain exploration and search techniques. Technological advances, particularly in drones and satellite photography, had revolutionized exploration capabilities in previously inaccessible terrains. Dr. James Patterson, a glaciologist from the University of Colorado, specializing in Himalayan ice formations, had been studying the effects of climate change on Mount Everest for several years. His team used high-tech drones equipped with thermal cameras and 3D mapping systems to document structural changes in the mountain's glaciers. In April 2016, during a scientific research expedition, Patterson's team deployed a specialized drone to explore areas of Everest previously unreachable. The device, designed to operate in extreme cold and wind, was equipped with cutting-edge technology to capture high-resolution images. The restricted zone where the Mendozas had disappeared had become a particular point of interest. Climate changes in previous decades had significantly altered the ice structure in that area, creating new formations and exposing previously hidden terrain. Patterson had reviewed historical records of Everest disappearances as part of his research on the mountain's geological hazards. The Mendoza case caught his attention due to the specific location of their disappearance and the unique conditions of the Forbidden Zone. On April 15, 2016, the team scheduled a thorough drone exploration of the zone. The mission aimed to map glacial crevasses and document structural changes over the past 28 years. At 10:30 a.m. on April 15, 2016, Dr. Patterson's drone began its flight over the restricted zone of Mount Everest. Weather conditions were optimal, with moderate winds and excellent visibility crucial factors for a mission of this nature. The drone systematically flew over the rugged terrain, capturing detailed images of the glacial formations. The landscape revealed a dramatic surface of white ice, crisscrossed by deep, irregular crevasses, some newly formed due to climate shifts. At 11:45 a.m., while the drone explored a particularly fractured section of the glacier at exactly 5,350 meters altitude, the camera captured something extraordinary. In one of the deepest crevasses, partially visible thanks to the angle of sunlight, a human figure was clearly distinguishable in an upside-down position. The ultra-high resolution image showed what appeared to be a person trapped headfirst within a glacial crevasse. The distinct colors of the mountaineering clothing were clearly visible, even after decades of exposure to extreme elements. Initially, Dr. Patterson and his team believed they had found a recent Everest victim. However, upon closer inspection and comparison with historical disappearance records, they began to suspect a far more significant discovery. The color combination of the visible clothing exactly matched historical descriptions of the Mendoza family: one orange jacket, one pink, and a vibrant blue one. The distinctive puffer designs, typical of the 1980s, were also clearly visible in the high-resolution images, confirming that the discovery indeed belonged to the missing Mendoza family required weeks of meticulous analysis. Dr. Patterson immediately contacted Nepalese authorities and surviving relatives in San Diego to report the extraordinary finding. Miguel Mendoza, now 73 years old, received the call he had waited for over 28 years. The drone images were shared with him and other family members, who confirmed that the visible clothing matched exactly what Fernando, Susana, and Rebecca had worn on their final expedition. The forensic investigation, led by Mountain Disaster specialists, revealed the exact sequence of events leading to the tragedy. Historical seismic records showed that on March 31, 1988, the same day, the Mendozas had entered the restricted zone. A magnitude 6.2 earthquake occurred in the Himalayan region. While not particularly destructive in populated areas, the quake had caused massive fractures in Everest's glacial formations. The already unstable restricted zone had experienced sudden openings of deep crevasses, hidden under fresh snow. Subsequent analyses determined that the Mendoza family had fallen into these crevasses simultaneously during the quake. The preserved positions of the bodies, kept intact by extreme cold, indicated that they had tried to help one another during the fall, but the crevasse depths made any escape impossible. The exceptional preservation of their bodies and equipment was due to the zone's unique conditions, consistently below zero temperatures, lack of oxygen, and protection from the elements deep within the glacial fissures. The discovery of the Mendoza family after 28 years had a profound impact on both the international mountaineering community and the grieving family. The body recovery operation in May 2016 became one of the most complex ever executed on Mount Everest. Miguel Mendoza, accompanied by his children and grandchildren, traveled to Nepal to take part in the repatriation ceremony. After decades of uncertainty, the family finally achieved the emotional closure they had long sought. The bodies were brought back to San Diego, where a proper funeral was held in June 2016. The Mendoza case led to significant changes in Everest's safety protocols. Nepalese authorities implemented mandatory GPS tracking systems for all climbers and established stricter exclusion zones in geologically unstable areas. The foundation Miguel Mendoza created in memory of his family expanded its mission to include mountaineering safety education programs. The story of Fernando, Susana, and Rebecca became a case study used to teach future climbers about the risks of ignoring safety warnings. Dr. Patterson published his findings in the Journal of Glaciology, where the Mendoza case served as evidence of climate change's impact on Himalayan glacial formations. His work contributed to a better understanding of geological risks in extreme mountain environments. The Mendoza family's legacy goes beyond the tragedy of their disappearance. Their story serves as a reminder that even the most experienced climbers must respect safety warnings and the relentless forces of nature. The pursuit of adventure, though noble, must never come at the cost of prudence and respect for the natural boundaries that protect us from the world's hidden dangers. 3 months later, as forensic analyses were nearly complete, Dr. Patterson received a call that would once again change the course of this extraordinary story. Forensic specialists examining Fernando's remains had discovered something unsettling, something inconsistent with the original theory of death. The tissues, preserved by extreme cold, revealed trauma that could not be explained solely by the fall into the glacial crevasses. Skull fractures showed patterns inconsistent with an accident, while the positions of the 3 bodies suggested they had tried to protect themselves from more than just a collapsing landscape. Maria Delgado, a forensic investigator specializing in mountain cases, was assigned to examine these anomalies. For weeks, she meticulously studied every detail of the remains and recovered equipment. What she uncovered led her to question the entire narrative built around the earthquake as the sole cause of the tragedy in Sassana's climbing gear. Maria found a personal journal that had remained partially legible thanks to its placement in a waterproof pouch. The final entries, written with a shaky hand, described strange encounters with other climbers in the restricted zone during the days leading up to their disappearance. The notes repeatedly mentioned a group of mountaineers who had set up an illegal camp in the area, apparently involved in suspicious and dangerous activities. The last entry, dated March 30th, 1988, expressed the family's growing fear and their decision to leave the area immediately. Analysis of this new evidence suggested that the Mendoza family may have witnessed something they were not meant to see, and that their presence in the restricted zone had been perceived as a threat by individuals with dark motives for being there.